thank you so much for spending your day with us. I would encourage you to hang around for just a few more minutes. Dr. Tom Insel, my co-moderator, and I will officially close the summit. And there's some powerful messages as we try to wrap up the day and leave you with some parting thoughts. So let me start by handing it back to Tom. Tom, if you can help us recap, what a day.
Oh, great. Thanks, Kunal. Although, following Jewel is no easy act. But what I will do is just spend a few minutes thinking about what we've heard. I mean, this has been an amazing day. We started with Brandon Staglin, who talked about recovery, talked about the importance of love, of family, of mission. We heard from Kay Tai, who talked about the power of social connection, kind of a theme we came back to so many times, including from Jewel herself. Carrie Ressler, Sachin Patel showed us the toxic effects of fear and stress. Leanne Williams described her new research on depression that we heard about from Ariana Huffington as well. Husseini Manji and Katya Malevskaya described this new era with ketamine and psilocybin and how they can be used to treat depression. And finally, before our film and music superstars, Kath Raza, who's, let's face it, he's a superstar by himself in neuroscience, showed us why diversity is so important for understanding both the brain and the mind. As Kath said, inclusion matters, and I think that's an important theme to come back to. So it's been just a great summit. Before we conclude, let me take just a few minutes, maybe 3, to share some personal thoughts on the state of mental health, because I think as we go from bench to bedside to a better world, we've got to say that in November of 2020, we have to recognize that mental health care is really in a crisis state. And we heard this from so many of the speakers. Death and disability are higher today than at any time in the past 25 years. That was actually true before the pandemic. And as the number of cases and the number of COVID-related deaths surge again, experts are predicting a profound rise in drug overdoses and suicides and so-called deaths of despair. We're seeing already large increases in depression and anxiety, especially in young people, a theme that has come up in this last couple of sessions. The state of mental health in America is, let's face it, it's not good, and very likely it's going to get much worse. So what can we do? I want to go back to Kath's invocation to that inclusion is important, inclusion matters, because I think it's a good place to start. One aspect of inclusion is asking people with mental illness, what do they want? There are, of course, many answers to this question. We heard some of this from Brandon Staglin at the beginning of the day, who shared his journey of recovery with us. The advocacy group, Mental Health America, posed this question to something like 2 million people. They asked them online, what do you want? People who were struggling with a form of mental illness. And the answers were a little bit surprising. Very, very few people said that we want access to medication, we want access to therapy. That's actually not what they asked for. Mostly people wanted credible information. They wanted a chance to talk to someone who was undergoing the same struggle, or as they said, someone just like me. Many wanted online help. Most of all, what comes out of these kinds of efforts is just what we heard from Brandon. People want connection, they want compassion, they want care, they want love, which, let's face it, it's what all of us want. There's nothing so surprising about that. So I think asking people what they want is actually an important starting point, because we have so much epidemiological evidence that demonstrates that more than 60% of people who could benefit from care are not receiving care, at least in the mental health space. So the problem isn't just lack of access, it's lack of engagement. This lack of engagement, the 60% who are outside of care, may be the reason why all these advances we've been making in science have not yet translated to advances in outcomes. We're not bending the curve for death or for disability. And often the care that is delivered when people finally do engage is mostly medication. It's not addressing the keys to recovery given to us at the beginning of the day by Brandon when he talked about what it was that really made a difference from him. It's exactly what people say they want. In all of these studies, they want connection. I recently co-founded an online company called Human-S Care to solve the problem of engagement. We meet people where they are, usually on social media, and provide not only evidence-based care, often with the sort of microtherapeutics that you heard from Ariana Huffington, but also an opportunity to connect with each other, to get help and to give help. Unlike social media, we're building a safe online place for people to recover, a place where they can be authentic and vulnerable and helpful to others, and also a place where they can get high quality group care, one-on-one care, what they want, when they want it, how they want it. Coming out of this divisive election season, and I don't know that we're completely out of it yet, but when we do come out of it, all of us are hoping that new leadership in Washington will solve the nation's problems. And, you know, maybe better leadership on COVID-19 will end the pandemic. Unfortunately, the mental health crisis isn't going to be solved by a vaccine or a new therapeutic or by a new administration. This is something that's going to take all of us. It's going to take inclusion of people, inclusion of the people we aim to help. It's going to take a trust in science, which we've seemed to have lost increasingly in the last few years. If we're going to be able to improve care, it's got to come out of having better science and trusted science. And most of all, I think it's going to take connection, connection that empowers people to engage in care. I don't know that Human-S Care, this new company, will be the solution to the entire crisis, but it is one step as we move from bench and bedside to a better world. I hope you'll check us out at humanscare.com and choose to join us as we're trying to build a compassionate online community. And certainly thank you for joining us today. It's been such a thrill to be able to do this with Kunal and with the team at Inscopix. Kunal, I'll turn it to you to close out the day.
Thank you, Tom. Those were powerful closing remarks. And thank you, Tom, for dedicating your life to the research, treatment, and care of our mental health. Thank you also for being a mentor to several of the leading experts who have spoken today and to so many others who are trailblazers in their own right. And thank you personally for being a mentor to me too. What a day. In any other year, we would be in a large auditorium in some hotel, and we would be interacting and speaking to each other in person, and then breaking for happy hour after all of this. Well, this is no ordinary year. We have never hosted a virtual summit, and oh my, it was just as complicated in many ways to host as a traditional in-person summit. I did want to take this opportunity to provide my own personal perspective on the day and to thank a few folks while I'm at it. I could not summarize the day any better than Tom. I will only add that I do feel that especially if we were in that room together, we would literally feel the hope in the air. The hope that with the new administration about to take office in the United States, that we will once again get back to science-based decision-making, to predictability, which is a good thing, and to tackling the grand challenges ahead of us in a bipartisan and collaborative manner. The hope that with the belief in science, with investments in research, with a multi-stakeholder public-private partnership approach, and together with a market-based economy that aligns incentives to ensure that breakthrough innovations are commercialized and scaled to make broad impact on society. You heard this come up when Ariana Huffington was talking about how do we get those innovations out of the lab and into society. There is no better place than the United States to make that happen. Inscopix is a living proof of that happening in reality. We have the means to tackle the mental health crisis and to improve brain health. Inscopix is doing its part to turn that hope into reality. We are but just a small piece of an emerging ecosystem that will drive a mechanistic understanding of the brain, that will develop the precision diagnostics that Leanne Williams was talking about, and the precision neurotherapeutics of the future. And that will overall power a better world where behavioral disorders, mental illness will be treatable, if not someday curable. In the meantime, we really do draw strength from Brandon Staglin, from the youth in the Ewers Brothers documentary, from Jewel. Their stories are compelling, they're hopeful, and they are in many ways, in so many ways, the inspiration for our work at the bench and for the treatments that we ultimately wish to bring to the bedside. In the meantime, we're so energized and optimistic thanks to the remarks that Ariana and Josh made. We literally have takeaways that we can leverage in our day-to-day lives and overall live better. We're so grateful and honored that they capped off our summit today. I wanted to close by thanking a few folks who have helped in organizing this summit. Pushkar Joshi, who leads our strategy office at Inscopix, for really organizing this end-to-end. What a task, a Herculean task that he pulled off in about a month in the midst of a pandemic. Jackie DeRose, Sushmita Gururaj at Inscopix, and Caitlin Vanderweel, who was Kate High student and now is starting her own communications company. And of course, 090 Media, Shannon and Lori, for spending countless hours with us, Kevin today, and with the speakers. We couldn't have hosted our very first virtual summit without you. We're at the end of our day, and I'd like to bid you farewell. I sincerely hope that you're leaving with hope. I certainly am, and are optimistic about the better world we can create, and are enlightened by the solutions that are available today and by the innovations that are on the horizon. Thank you very much, and take care.